guest. Shahab Enam Khan is a professor at Jahangirnagar University in Bangladesh. She joins me live now from the capital. Thank you so much for being with us on the program. My guest earlier said this was a historic moment and that Sheikh Hasina has had a profound impact in one way or another, mostly negatively, on his life. Do you share the same sentiment?
Well, thank you very much for having me in this program. And I think there's pretty much reality to your question that you have asked, because the first issue is that the inherent corruption that has been prevailing in the country was absolutely remarkable. I mean, unprecedented. Even the global financial intelligence units reported that more than $60 billion has been siphoned out from Bangladesh. There has been a case of super denial about the grassroots realities. But of course, if you look at the macroeconomic terms, Bangladesh's growth was unprecedented and quite remarkable, without any doubt. But that was heavily concentrated within the hands of few. So I think the problem was governance, and then denial, and of course then arbitrary use of political and the legal measures, which has led to a cumulative effect of what we are seeing right now.
Was Hasina bound to resign, especially after these last round of protests that turned quite deadly, where more than 200 people were killed? Was this outcome expected?
Well, the outcome was pretty much expected over the past 1 week, but not the way it has actually ended, unfortunately. We always thought there will be a dignified exit for the Prime Minister, and the cabinet will have some sort of sense of responsibility prevail. But nonetheless, we haven't really seen significant change in the government's attitude towards the looming situation. And of course, that she has left the country at the moment tells that certainly she was not prepared for that too. So overall situation dictates that there was a looming concern among the mass that if the Prime Minister is not resigning, they will stand against the bullets and battles. So, which means the bullets and bonnets were a lot really deterring them from raising their voices, coming together, and forming an alliance with every walks of life, and then move around the capital city. Even the curfews were breached heavily by the people, and because if you look at Bangladesh's population, it's 170 million people. I mean, even if you take 1% of that, you have an astronomical number of people who will be visiting, who will be here. So what I mean is that given the number of population, given the number of strength, and given the youth uniting together on one unified action that the justice should be brought, has created a massive energy against the government. And the result is today's departure of the former Prime Minister from Bangladesh.
Do you think she'll ever be able to return to Bangladesh?
I certainly doubt that the political resumption of political responsibility will be there. But certainly she can always come back. And I think one of the tasks that the current military administration is working is to facilitate an interim government. An interim government's job will be to deliver a democratic institution. And when I mean democratic institution, it has to be inclusive, in which Awami League cannot be isolated. Certainly, there will be a heavy reservation from the popular opposition, that is BNP, for AL to come back, but that should not be the precondition for having any kind of meaningful multi-party democracy in the country. So therefore, while there is a wide speculation that she may not ever come back, but I do see a meaningful reason for her to come back and join the political system, provided there is a sense of reform within Awami League, and there is a sense of responsibility taken by the Awami League activists regarding the killings that has taken place over the past 2 weeks. So I think it all depends how interim government will perform and bring back an inclusive political system in the coming months.
You mentioned the word justice, and I think it's important to put that into context given everything that we've seen unfold over the last 2 weeks. Many are calling for her to be tried at the ICC for violations of human rights. Would you agree?
Uh, yes and no. I mean, yes and no in a sense that there has been a number of initiatives that the current regime or perhaps the interim government can take to deliver just and meaningful reforms, particularly that should start with the judiciary and the law enforcement agencies. And then there has to be credible inquiry into all the death that has taken place over the past 2 weeks. So I think there is still an option for the country itself to establish some sort of justice for the fallen lives. So then only that I think the issue of International Criminal Court would be viable. Of course, there is a demand for International Court to come into the play. But again, as a Bangladeshi, I would give a chance to our own systems first and then look forward to International Court. And I don't think that International Court will always be very effective in this manner unless the chief prosecutor agrees to take the case.
Looking at the political system moving forward, we heard from the army chief saying that a transitional government will be formed. Many are saying that there hasn't been a credible election held in the past 15 years during Hasina's rule.
Right.
So just give us a sense of how this process is expected to unfold and how historical this might be for Bangladeshis today.
I think the key way to do this is because this is an unprecedented situation. And over the past 15 years, elections were pretty much hitched. The very simple reason is the Awami League wanted to consolidate the power. But also there was inability on the part of BNP too, because it was heavily relying on much more of a street power at that time and was looking forward to international support. But if you look at the current protest that has happened over the 2 weeks, it was absolutely apolitical. I mean, there were political enterprises that joined this particular movement, but that does not necessarily mean it had a political elements as such, until or unless it became a single demand initiative over the past 2 days. So I think the first thing is to dissolve the parliament, and I think most of the cabinet members will flee away by now. And then subsequently what we are going to see is that President declares a new interim government within the auspices of the constitution and the law of the land. So it is possible. And the interim government will have different representations, predominantly civil society, and certainly that will also be reflecting different paths of the society to come together as a government.
Right, and they would, of course, have to address a lot of issues that have been raised by these young protesters, particularly these students.
Right.
Just give us a sense of what are some of these issues that the interim government would have to address right away.
First is to bring the political sanity back, which means they have to really focus heavily on reforming the political institutions, particularly the electoral institutions and obviously the institutions that will be focusing on electoral governance. So these are the institutions they have to focus on. The second important agenda for them would be to really strengthen the judicial process or judiciary, but I don't know whether it will be very much possible for them to reform the judiciary to a great extent. Perhaps they will try to do so. The third major issue is the economy, because the money has been siphoned out, impending corruption cases are there, and the money is in the hands of the very few. And the kleptocracy is extremely visible in the country. So I think the third major job for the government is to bring the financial institutions under transparency measures, accountability, and of course they will be focusing on bringing money back from from different countries. And the fourth important agenda for them will be to strengthen the space for the civil society to pitch their voices, so that at least extremism or the criminal activities doesn't persist in the country in the coming days. So that means the consultation with the civil society for them to enact policies will be very critical. And the last important thing is to really deliver an election ASAP, I mean, as soon as possible. So I think that's what the president is going to talk about when and how this electoral system will take place.
Well, we're following the developments very closely here on TR2 World. Shahab Enam Khan, thank you so much for being with us here and sharing that analysis with me.